has an agenda and God has an agenda. Okay? So that is why we cannot afford to rest on our earth. We cannot afford to relax. We cannot afford to be lackadaisical. Our work is a lot more spiritual. And so I just wanted us to, it's just a wake up call, right? The fact that we are the forefront of saving the next generation is very, very key. Okay, Christiana, do you want to say something before I pick up, before I move? If you like to say so.
Hello, everyone. Good evening once again. It's day 4 of Teach Maths, and I am so excited. There've been a lot of challenges, but indeed, we're going to overcome all of them. And we're going to have these 12 days of Teach Maths. It's going to be amazing. And I am so much of a believer in God. And I believe that everything, every single thing that God intended to achieve using this platform will be achieved. Thank you so much for joining. And today we have one of my mentors as our guest joining us this evening. And you would have heard the motherly, and you would have seen why she's one of my mentors. She spoke to us just some seconds ago. And just like I said earlier when I introduced her, many of us started teaching maybe after secondary school, but this person started teaching when she was age 13. And unlike those of us, I'm sorry, but unlike some of us, she started by teaching adults and she taught them how to read. And she did that with success. So, everyone, please kindly show some love to Dr. Tony Sam Emehelu as she talks to us about communication on this fourth day of Teach Maths. Dr. Tony, we love you. Thank you for joining and thank you for being here this evening.
I love you too. And you know, the one good thing that I'm so happy about is that most of this glitch happened when I was to facilitate. And so there's also a reason and there's also a purpose, you know, to give you that support, that word of encouragement, to let you know that, hey, my own eyes have seen a lot, like I was sharing with you backstage, you know. So just be calm. And for those that are going to be watching this replay, I would also appreciate a feedback from you. It's going to be a great time. So that means I have between now and 6:10 because I think I have about 30 to 40 minutes, and Christiana asked me to start from the beginning. Okay, so for those that were around Pyroxene now, I'm going to be asking you questions, especially for those of us that were able to hear what I said about what communication in education is. Can somebody just give us a very quick recap? I want to be sure if learning are taking place before the hiccups. Anybody? Um, I think, oh yeah, Tiara, you are the only one in the room as at that time. So can you just want to give us a recap and then I'll pick it up from there.
All right, Dr. Toyin, you were talking about the um, people that we often have in the education sector, and I was able to catch about 12. You talked about students, you talked about parents and guardians, you talked about fellow teachers and instructors, the school administrators and leaders, the education board, the community, researchers, subject matter experts, edtech like you lesson, librarian, guidance counselors, and even policy advocates. And you said that the importance of communication for all these people, the teachers, students, and other stakeholders, is the exchange of information, ideas, and feedback.
Whoop. That happens between students, teachers, and all other education stakeholders for one outcome, which is to facilitate learning, understanding, and creation. Right? Okay, so thank you. You've done justice to that. So, just before we had the glitches, I was trying to share the fact that I have 10 effective communication tips for educators. And like I said, for us all to be on this call this evening, we This is because we all are people that have taken this profession seriously. We are ready to invest our time, our data, our luxury of Sunday evening to ensure that the next generation gets better. And I want to encourage everyone on this call, please, please, and those that will catch the replay later, don't give up on this assignment. It is a spiritual assignment, it is a divine one at that, and we have to continue to push the right agenda. So, the first effective tip, communication tip for you as a global educator, number one, is cultural sensitivity. So, you want to make sure that beyond the scope of where you work, and when I say the scope of where you work, the school, the nation, the tribe, the culture, you want to be a lot more sensitive about diversity and inclusion. Secondly, you also want to ensure that as a global educator, you fall into the category of language clarity. What that implies is that you want to be someone that can speak clearly, simple language, concisely, without jargons and most of the time idioms, because communication oftentimes is not about you, it is about the person listening to you. So, Tiana Imoliayo, Data Field, Essay Imoliayo, and Adiola. Adiola, welcome to the call. So, like I said, these 10 effective communication tips are critical. Cultural sensitivity, language clarity, those two are very key. Now, another very important communication tip for you as a global educator is multilingual resources. You must begin to consider what you know platform that can you use that will begin to help translate whatever language. So usually we have English and French as the two global language as it is. So please, one of my goals in 2024 is to learn French. So I have basic and fair idea, but I want to be able to, because I'm preparing myself. By the way, I'm already a global educator, but I'm increasing my competence by intentionally going to learn French, such that if I find myself on a call or physically on the stage where French is being spoken or where I have to communicate in French, I then have the capacity and competence. You may want to learn another language, Chinese, Spanish, and all of that. You may say, oh, wow, why the so much burden? But remember that I am talking to you as a global communicator that you are. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is you must be able to have a global perspective of the curriculum, right? So when you're talking as a global educator, the examples you're going to be given, the case study you're going to be given should carry global perspective. Yes, I am someone that I don't also like sitting down with the news because it has a way of just affecting me. But I still make sure that I get a little bit of tips happening here, tips happening there, especially as it has to do with the continent of Africa, and major news that has trends that have to do with education. Because you also want to be someone that you can get to anywhere or you can make meaningful conversations where you have understanding of things that are being shared per time. And then you also want to ensure that you expose yourself to cross cultural training, right? Cross cultural trainings, and you have the capacity to be able to have your children interact with other children in other countries. And there's a very free platform you can use. It is called Empathico. All you need to just do is you have your internet, if you use smart boards or you use projector, whatever it is that you have. When you get on Empathico, you register as an educator, and then you can schedule a classroom session with children in any part of the world. I've been able to do it, with people. Just that unfortunately, I couldn't do a lot as an individual. So as a teacher, you have that capacity, you have that platform to do that. Then there is this aspect of communication that is very critical, which is active listening. Oftentimes, as educators, we feel that the only time we are communicating is when we are speaking. But listening actively is something that you don't want to negotiate with. Somebody said maybe that's the reason why God gave us 2 ears and one mouth. Now, I didn't just say listening, I said active listening. So there is a wide difference between just listening and listening actively. What does it mean to listen actively? To listen actively means that you're listening by giving your full attention to whoever is speaking to you, be a student, be other education stakeholders, be a colleague, be a supervisor, whoever it is that is communicating with you. Even on the internet, one of the most significant ways you can actively listen is when you have your video on. That goes to show that you are not doing other things, because a lot of us are used to just, logging in, and then we are doing several other things. However, as a 21st century educator, you must listen for what is said and what is not said. By the way, I read recently about non-verbal communication, how it carries a larger chunk of what it is that we are saying, just by looking at us, our tone of voice, our body language, and those things that are not being said. So it is important that you listen actively by also trying to rephrase or paraphrase whatever the speaker had said. I just practiced that with Tiana just a few minutes ago before most of us got on the call. This is very key because you also want to check for feedback if you have actually communicated well. If somebody is able to summarize and retell whatever it is that you've said, that is the power of active listening. And then you also want to consider time zones as a global educator. Google is your friend. So when you have to, have sessions virtually, make sure that you Google. It's as easy as saying what is 5 p.m. in whatever country it is that you are going to be training or you're going to be learning. I have had a lot of international trainings. I still had one on Friday, right? So this is something that you also have to be able to get on effectively. Also, you must also be able to have regular check-ins and monitoring when you are speaking globally, because like I said, we are no longer limited. Everyone on this call is a global educator already. Look at us connecting from different parts of the country in a different location. Even if all of us were in Lagos, well, I'm sure we have quite a number of people from Abuja. But even if every one of us is in Lagos, we do a lot more now communicating online, and that actually satisfies us. In fact, during COVID, I told people that I was able to speak in 6 countries: Pakistan, South Africa, and all that as a facilitator, right? So I tell people that I'm speaking globally, and that's just the truth. So it's your headache if you think that, okay, I didn't leave the comfort of my room, or I didn't leave the comfort of Nigeria, and what have you. And then, of course, lastly, you want to also carry out global collaboration projects. Now, what global collaboration project does for us in communicating is that we learn a lot. We're able to see from different people's perspective as to what communication is all about. And then I'm going to add an extra one that just came to my mind now. Just try as much as possible to save towards traveling. You see, traveling is one of the most powerful form of education. Every single year, I make sure I do all that is my best to visit somewhere new that I've never visited before, right? Last year, I was in Dubai. And even if you cannot afford international trips, you can afford local ones, okay? Even if it's just a city close to you. And next year, I'm so optimistic because by the grace of God, I should be yeah, yeah. And then this year, I was in Calabar. So you see, this year I didn't have to travel very, very far, but then I was able to still, visit a place where I learned a bit about their culture. I ate, fisherman soup. For those that follow me on social media, you would see that, and next year I'm looking forward to, at least going to the French village, Ghana, and Qatar if possible. Now, you may say that, oh, doctor, is because you are very wealthy. So before I started being able to get on this trip, there were years I didn't have a dime, but I wrote it as part of my bucket list. I wrote it as part of something I would really, really love to do. Okay, and there's just a way the universe conspires when you have made up your mind. And who says you can't start from a, a closer city near you, and there you are able to then communicate with the people, how they do their things, how to say their things. Remember, we are sharing about communication in education. Now, one of the things that has to do with communication in education also is, as an educator now, first of all, I'm dealing with us as educators, because a lot of times when we do training, it's all about the children, it's all about the children, it's all about children. I'm not saying that is wrong, right? Don't get me wrong, but see, we cannot pour from an empty cup. We cannot give what we don't have. And that was why in 2017, I was the first person that I know, anyway, I don't know of any other person that actually brought together a structured mentoring program for educators. And by the grace of God, we have impacted close to 500 educators. It's a paid one, it's not free, right? And what do? We actually help them master their personal leadership skills. Now, part of what I've talked about here is because oftentimes we overestimate what it is we can achieve in a year, and underestimate what we can achieve in a day or in a couple of weeks, right? So I'm saying that because we are having a new cohort that's going to be starting January 15th, and we have made the payment quite flexible, right? So even as you are enjoying Christmas, some of us got 13th month salary and all that. Just make sure that you are circumspect and begin to see how you want to invest in yourself. It's 80,000 naira, right? But at least we have a payment plan of like three installment payment, because we know we are educators. Not to say that some of us can't pay at once, but looking at the wider population. So you can say, oh, Dr. Sorry, I can't afford the 80K because that's on the high side. We also have 1 week leadership challenge program, which is also in January. I will share flyers with Tiana. Maybe she'll share on the teachers lounge, and that is just for 10,000 naira. So you may say, Dr. Toye, I can't afford 80,000, but at least 10,000 naira is not too much to invest in yourself. So right now, 10,000 is like cost for two full shawarma. So you want to make sure that you don't eat your life away, but you invest in yourself as much as you can. Okay, so end of promotion. Let's get back to class. Now, I'm going to now consider communication when it comes to the children, because I had to take it in two stages, and I had to take up the responsibility to be a mentor and a coach to a lot of educators, and I've not had any regrets at that. In fact, a lot of them have gone ahead to be mentors themselves, and that is so exciting. So I usually, whenever I talk or whenever I have opportunities to train, I don't just focus on the children. The children are important, don't get me wrong. In fact, it is the fact that they are important that's what makes me believe. I don't not think that was what made me believe that teachers are a lot more important, because we are the channel through which children's lives and destinies are being transformed. So I don't look away from teachers building capacity even before I talk about the children. So communication in the classroom. The first thing you need to do as a communicator in the classroom is, you know, you have a word register for every class that you find yourself in. So what is a register? A register, what is an identifiable style of talking to children in your classroom. Yeah, it's very interesting. Now, what that does is it creates a lot of bond, right? You have not slangs, you have no, not necessarily slang, but you can have taglines, you can have mantras. You can A lot of us have seen those kind of videos. Now, what the word register also do is that you can actually bring the children to add to the vocabulary, the pattern of vocabulary, grammar, right? Expressions that, you know, just your classroom, the children in your classroom, if you have a class assistant, bring her along, depending on the setting in your school or in your classroom. But you just have this social bond, and communication is one of the most viable tool that you can actually use to achieve this. Isn't that amazing? Yes, very, very amazing. So establish that word register and thank me later. So I move on to the first thing. The first thing is that you must establish clear expectations. right? By the time you are going back to school by second term, you must have established clear expectations where you have academic goals, learning objectives and outcomes, learning structure and outcome processes all spelled out. Because children rise or fall to the level of our expectations as a parent and as an educator. If you let them know these are the things that I'm expecting from you, be sure that you will have it. But if you don't ask, you will not receive. And that also boils down to communicating in your classroom. Then you need to also use various communication channels. See, I used to tell educators that we are the least people that should be poor, especially with the advent of the internet. All we need to do is we need to be content creators and not just content consumers. If you go to my social media handles, Instagram, YouTube, and all, one thing you will discover is that you always have something, one or two things to learn. And by the grace of God, I serve as the lead consultant at Cospace Transformational Academy Limited, and we have a learning management system that people pay in, and they watch videos, they submit assignments, and I get well paid, highly remunerated. And guess what, this learning management system cuts across everyone on planet earth. So you may say, Dr. Tori, I can't afford to have a learning management system because it's not free to set up anyway. Why not? If not, you have YouTube. YouTube is free where you can host content. So you can actually create some content during the holidays and it will save you the stress over time, especially if your school has devices to support whatever it is that you're doing. So create the content, and who says that you can't sell it to other schools? Who says that you can't share it with other professional colleagues and get remunerated for it? Some of us have been teaching for a long time and we keep having to exhaust our energy. Guess what? When we sign up students on our courses, I don't, well, all I do is I focus on other things. My executive assistant and our technical assistant, manages people, and we get the alert. So to come back to class, don't mind me. I'm very passionate about educators being able to, attain financial freedom, because hey guys, money is very, very good. Scripture says money answereth all things. So you need to learn how to use varied communication channels, audio visuals, learning styles, written, verbal, video lessons, podcasts. All these things are available. You have platforms that you can use. You have Anchor FM for podcasts. You have YouTube for videos. You can always just work on the public setting such that everybody do not gain access to it, right? If you, for example, on this kind of platform, you can record and you have them there, and then you can then upload. You can use Zoom, you can use your phone if your phone has the screen recorder, and so many things like that. Then you also want to check out for your non-verbal communication with your students. This has a lot to do with student engagement, student comprehension, student enthusiasm, student approachability both to you and to them. And then active listening comes again. So how do you actively listen in the classroom? Listen for your students' concerns, listen to their questions, listen to their feedback, listen to their personal, social, and emotional issues. Because a child that doesn't love you or that doesn't like you can never learn from you. That is why some teachers are having issues with some students. And we feel, because if you have not built that connection, if you have not built that rapport, there is a limit to what you can do to put that thing in. There's a reason why Christiana brought me to this call. She likes me, she trusts me, she knows me, right? So you have to be able to build that rapport, whether you are teaching children or you are teaching adults. Then you also want to make sure that you have questioning. Now, don't wait to the end of the class to say, do you have any question? The reason is because they will all say no. There's something called a parking lot, and every teacher must have a parking lot in the classroom. So a parking lot, you could just use a marker, right, to draw a four, like a quadrant. You all know what a quadrant is. That has four quadrants, and then you can put on one side questions, on the second side changes, the third side are aha moments, and the fourth side comments, right? And then give your students license. It may not even be on the board. You can just have a flip chart, or you can even have a cardboard, or you can even have an A4 paper, right? And while the learning is going on, give your children the liberty to go and drop whatever questions that they have, because it's actually when learning is taking place that questions comes up in the minds of our students. I'm sure that as I'm talking now, a lot of questions are coming up. So please, I have my virtual. Okay, I should take the quadrant again. Okay, thank you, Imoliayo. So the first quadrant, you can actually arrange it the way you want, but the four things that should be on your parking lot are questions, changes, aha moments, and comments, right? There is no session I facilitate physically or even sometimes virtually that I don't get to do that. So, guys, my parking lot is up, but I needed to explain to you. So, please use the chat room to make your comments, to begin to ask your questions, your aha moments, and then, of course, the changes you want to make and any comments you want to make, right? So, sorry, I'm at speed just because of all the technical issues we've had, and I want to make sure that I keep to time. So, you also want to have a feedback loop, timely feedback, you know, that has to do with both for you and for the students. You want to have a time for self-reflection. You want a time where your students too will have a time for self-reflection. And both of you can have conversations either as a group, think, pair, and share, or as one-on-one discussions. So you can also establish the place of peer mentorship in your classroom, where not necessarily a very strong student and a weak student. You could make the mix, anything, just be creative, right? I also serve as the senior special assistant to the director general at Chartered Institute of Mentoring and Coaching, and I have been able to coach and train mentors since 2019. So don't mind me, I also have a bias in that aspect. But hey, coaching and mentoring is something that you want to also deploy. Then you want to incorporate a lot of interactive activities. You want to make them debate. You want to make sure that they do a lot of projects, collaborative learning. There's cross and interdisciplinary learning, of course. And then, of course, with that, what you will discover is when they are having interactive activities, there's something we call coordinated noise. In fact, as a consultant, whenever go to a school and it's silent like a graveyard, I'm always very angry. I'm always very angry because when active communication is not taking place, learning or communication is one way. So I always look out for that coordinated noise. Remember, as a 21st century educator, you are just a facilitator of learning. You are not the custodian of knowledge. By the way, these students, they even know a lot more than some of us. So we are just playing catch up. They are digital natives. We are digital migrants, right? Well, that's just the truth. No matter how, we can't catch up with them when it comes to technology and what have you. And then for your communication in the classroom, you want to be adaptable, where you have student centered conversations. When you just allow them take the floor, right? You just want to allow them take the floor. So you do this by recognition of their strengths, identification of their learning preferences. You just know that some students are extraordinarily good in some subjects. Leave the classroom. Over the weekend, give them the topic, let them do their research, and then let them come back while you take the back seat and let them own the stage. Right? That way, communication is well balanced. And sometimes, especially students that love to express themselves, in fact, most time we'll be looking forward to such an opportunity. Yes, I know as teachers sometimes we are constrained by school policies and all, but there's a way you can go about it if you know what you are doing and if you know what you want. And that's just the truth, right? Then you also want to leverage on audiovisual aids. I'm going to say that again because we need to learn to teach children the way they love to learn. See, you see this texting, we can't remove it. Whether we like it or not, we can't remove it. So you can even subscribe. I'm not marketing for you lesson. You can even subscribe for you lesson for the entire class, and and then before you know it, some of the topics that they are finding very abstract, you lesson has animated it for us, and it just makes your life easier. I don't know about you. I've always worked smart as an educator, and that's why my career progression seems very fast. I was in a meeting in church earlier this morning, so I joined the education hub in my church, and By the time I show them some of the books I authored, by the way, I'm an author of 22 books. Four of them are in print, and I have over 18 of them as electronic books. So you may want to visit. I will also drop the link to our shop, and we are having a 50% Christmas promo this season. So you want to leverage some ebooks as small as 1,000. As in, you'll be shocked. You know, some of our ebooks, and we have the one that is as high as 5,000, even as an ebook. So depending, there's no category except you want to deceive yourself. See, so when people are giving you, free money are always flying around during Christmas time. So trap it, leverage on it, use it to do something very tangible for yourself. And then finally, while communicating in your classroom, you must be intentional about celebrating achievements. Please, and it doesn't have to be monetary. You don't have to spend so much money. Just by acknowledging, celebrating a sticker, a paper, a word, you know, those things. So because when you celebrate these achievements, it's a way of communicating to the children to say, hey guys, I see you, I feel you. Thanks for what you are doing. All right. It also brings about motivation. Support them in groups, support them as individuals, and like they say, the rest is history. I hope with these few points of mine, I've been able to convince you and not to confuse you that education, communication in education is very possible. First, it starts with us as educators, and then secondly, with our classrooms. Thank you so much. So I want to see your parking lot. Yes. Thank you, Tiana. Over to you. I'm so glad we're able to pull this through despite every challenges we had.
Yes, 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 Dr. Toyi, we did it. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, loud and
Yes,
clear.
we can. Yes, we
Awesome.
can.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you,
God bless you.
everyone, for
Thank you.
joining. Thank you for being a part of today's training. Please, if you have questions for Dr. Toyi, kindly put them in the comments section. And we're having two sections today. We're having two sessions, I meant to say, today, because we could not have Dr. Toyi's session yesterday because of our technical issues. So the person that was actually slated to speak today will still be coming up. So please stick with us. We're going to be talking about assessments in how to, um, quality assessment strategies, how to properly assess learners shortly. And just while I'm waiting for your comments and contributions, I'd like to show you Dr. Tony's books. This one is personal education,
Personal leadership
personal
for
leadership for educators.
education.
Okay,
Yeah.
another one here is the school leaders toolkit. She also has core skills in mentorship, and finally the education consultancy blueprints. I think this one right here, I know that this is the bestseller that she has, this one, but for me this one is a gold mine. So thank you
Ah,
so much, Dr. Toyi.
yes, yes,
It's
yes.
such a delight to have you here with us this evening. And
Absolutely.
I can't see questions, so I want to assume that you've done a good job answering all the questions that people
Yeah,
have this evening.
yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
so much
So,
for
so,
sticking
so,
with us.
so while they don't have a question, I have a question for them. So, I
Okay,
want
ma'am.
everyone to drop on the chat room. What? Okay. What?
Oh, someone has a question.
Yes, yes, yes. So just before I respond to that question, I want everyone to drop on the chat room. What is that one thing for you that you are taking away from this session? Just drop it on the chat. I want to get feedback, and I want to be sure that I had communicated effectively. So the question here says, how can we encourage active listening in students? Very, very simple. You see, one of the ways I have encouraged active listening in my own children is sometimes deliver your lessons in audio format and let them listen in. And then when they listen in, all right, um, automatically they started developing their listening skills. And another thing you want them to do is work in groups and tell them, let them, they have to have a facilitator, they have to have a leader, they have to have a presenter. So when they have a collaborative project and something to deliver as a team, whether they like it or not, they'll be able to listen because the person facilitating is going to be different from the person presenting. The person different is going to be different from the person scribing. So remember that in communication, there are four major skills that we are always targeting at: reading, listening, writing, and speaking. So this four is being automatically developed when you are creative about incorporating interactive activities within your classroom. So those are just the two tips that I will share because of our time. I have some very other other ones, but hey, I have to speed up. I made sure I even finished 10 minutes before time. So Francisca asks, I was going to ask how to encourage quiet students to ask questions during lesson confidently, but the parking lot idea helps to ensure everyone has a voice. That is the hate habit of Stephen Covey, habit of highly effective people. You must give every child a voice. Thank you so much, Francisca. In fact, you have made my day. I feel like a $10 billion educator right now. All right,
You are.
other comments. I love the fact that I had answered your question in the process of having this conversation. So Tiana, what was the takeaway for you? Imolia, your Francisca has said something. I think the other person we have on the call is data field and essay. So I just want that feedback. So what is that one thing you're taking away from school?
Dr. Toyin,
Yeah.
mine is also the parking lot. I am
Whoa.
thinking about how to, come up with like a PDF to share with teachers. Like this is
Mm,
a resource that teachers should just download and just use in their classrooms. Thank
absolutely.
you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. Data field, essay.
Hello,
Hello.
good evening. Hello, everyone. Yes, so I heard the five. My attention was drawn to. Uh, I'm actually joining two different meetings now, so I was trying to
Wow.
speak in the other one. So I didn't get the question or what the conversation was all about. I'm really sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. It's okay. You are data everywhere.
Yeah.
So can I hear from Estee and Imole Ayer and then I can drop the call. Estee Ola, yeah, okay, Imole Ayer, go ahead. Can see you but muted your mic. Oh, you may be speaking but we can't hear you. Okay,
Hello,
you
Dr. Toyin.
okay,
The
yes.
the Imoleayo account is what we're using for the recording.
Awesome. Okay, what about Estee? Ola Joko. Okay, all right. Let's hear from you.
Honestly,
Good
yeah,
evening.
honestly, this was why my question centered around the active listening as well, just because that was my key takeaway. I feel like, in general, not just in the classroom, but in general, active listening is something that sometimes doesn't like we listen to respond instead of listening to understand and to be able to engage properly with our students. And hearing you raise that point just sat with me. That is something to take away from the session. So I thank you for that.
Awesome. All right, so Tiana, am I free to drop those information on the group, or should I send them to you while you share them at your own
Yes, please. I would appreciate that you just share them
share with
with
you?
me because
All
if you
right.
put it here, we'll lose it
Okay.
on this
Yeah.
Google Meet platform. Yes,
Yeah.
so I'll
Yeah.
share it on the WhatsApp group, ma'am.
All right then.
Thank
Okay.
you
Thank
so
you
much,
so much
Dr.
for having me.
Tony. It's such a delight. Thank you so
Yes,
much. I
and I want to say
really appreciate
congratulations,
you.
Tiana. Congratulations that you didn't give up on
Thank
this
you, ma. Thank you
and keep
so
on
much,
Thank
ma.
pushing.
you.
Yeah. So permit me to
Dr.
leave.
Tony, you're owing me gist, and I'm going to come for it.
I'm all yours. When you're ready, let me just know.
All right,
Um,
ma.
all right,
Thank you so much,
then I
Dr.
should be in
Tony.
Abuja sometimes early next year. I'll let you know when I'm in town. So we could have a lunch date.
Yay! Yay! Thank
Nice
you
to meet
so much, ma.
everyone. Bye.